Welcome, brilliant minds, to Future Minds. This is the place where we challenge reality, really push the boundaries of the known, and dive headfirst into the ideas shaping tomorrow. I'm really energized to have you joining us today for what I promise is going to be quite an extraordinary exploration. Today, we're grappling with a question that's, well, it's echoed through the ages, hasn't it? Inspired myths, perplexed philosophers, and now it's driving cutting-edge science. So let me just put this right to you. Imagine a world where death, well, just didn't exist. No aging, no limits, no end to your story. On the surface, that sounds like paradise, right? The ultimate answer to every regret, every lost loved one, every ambition you never quite got to. But what if this eternal life isn't a gift? What if it's actually maybe a curse? Today, we're embarking on an exploration that goes beyond just speculating. We're journeying, metaphorically speaking, maybe to the end of time itself.
It's such a profound what if, isn't it? It touches on our deepest desires and our deepest fears too. What's really fascinating here, I think, is how humanity has wrestled with this exact question for, well, millennia, across cultures, across philosophies. And the material we've been digging into, wow, it's extensive. It offers a truly comprehensive look. You get the fantastical promises, but also the potential nightmares that come with it. It's a really deep look into what it means to be alive and, what it means for that life to eventually end.
And that's exactly what we want to unravel today. We've been sifting through some really thought-provoking perspectives on this, peeling back the layers. Our mission here on Future Mind, as always, is to kind of distill the most important bits, the key insights from all this information, help you navigate this really complex idea, turning information into, well, informed understanding. So settle in, open your mind, and let's properly unpack this ultimate what if, life without end.
Okay, so let's get into it. When you first think about infinite life, the immediate reaction, it's just pure opportunity, isn't it? Boundless potential. It's this incredibly appealing picture of becoming like the ultimate polymath, someone who could master every craft, learn everything.
Exactly. That immediate, almost intoxicating appeal is about erasing those time limits that define our lives right now. Our finite nature, this ticking clock, it forces us into really hard choices, doesn't it? Specialize here, give up that dream, wait on this passion, just not enough time. Infinite time just shatters all those barriers, right? Think about it for just one person. You could start off, spend, say, 100 years becoming a brilliant doctor, really understanding the human body in ways we can't even imagine now. And then, okay, you've done that. You could pivot completely. Spend the next 2 centuries becoming a world-class musician, master dozens of instruments, compose epic symphonies. But why stop there? After music, maybe space. Become an astronaut, explore distant galaxies for millennia, witness the birth and death of stars. There'd be absolute zero pressure about running out of time, none. Every dream, every skill. Possible. The whole idea of an unfulfilled ambition, gone.
That vision of endless personal growth, it's incredibly compelling, no doubt. It's central to a lot of the optimistic views on life extension we looked at. But it's more than just skills, right? Think about the social side. Within that positive frame, families wouldn't be torn apart by age or death anymore. It's generations living side by side continuously, sharing knowledge, experiences, an unbroken chain. Grandparents mentoring great-great-great-grandkids for centuries, not just years. You could literally watch humanity unfold, see its triumphs, its changes over millennia, journey to other planets. History becomes this epic movie playing out right in front of you. The sheer scope of experience, it's almost impossible for us to grasp now. Our research really paints this picture of human potential just blossoming.
It does paint such a vivid picture, almost utopian, doesn't it? Progress, fulfillment, connection really taps into that deep human desire for more. More life, more learning, more everything. But this isn't just fantasy, is it? We're not just dreaming this up. There are serious scientific efforts going on.
Precisely. Connecting this to the bigger picture. Yeah, this isn't just sci-fi anymore. Radical life extension, or immortality science as some call it, it's a very active field. Ambitious, heavily funded research. You've got futurists, transhumanists. These are folks advocating for using tech to enhance humans, including lifespan. They genuinely believe we're heading down this path. They're seriously working on things like mind uploading, digital immortality. Your consciousness theoretically preserved outside the body, maybe in a computer network. It's not just theory anymore. It's a dedicated scientific push with real money behind it.
So we're not just wishing for it. We're actively trying to build it, step by step.
That's right. Researchers are pouring resources into understanding aging at a fundamental level, slowing it down. They're looking at gene therapy, cellular repair, ways to rejuvenate tissues, tackling senescence. Some top researchers looking at the current pace even speculate kids born today might realistically live 150, 200 years, maybe more, pushing the boundaries of lifespan. Now, that's not eternal life, not in the absolute sense, but it's a huge shift. It fundamentally changes how we think about longevity, the ambition, the brain power, the scale of the scientific effort. It's really remarkable, and it pushes us to consider, what is human? This raises a really important question. If we achieve these leaps, are we on the cusp of fundamentally redefining what it means to be human? Not just lifespan, but our essence, our biology, psychology. What parts of us are tied to these current limits? What happens when those limits stretch or disappear? It makes us rethink our whole place in the natural order.
That's an incredible thought, redefining human existence itself. But here's where it gets really interesting, and maybe a bit chilling. What happens when we zoom out? Move from that dazzling individual dream to society, the whole picture. The material we've explored really forces you to confront this, shows the potential cracks in that utopia. What would civilization actually look like if death from old age just stopped being a thing? That natural population regulator, gone.
Yeah, that initial idyllic vision, it dissolves pretty quickly when you look at the collective impact. It gets complex, even dystopian. The most immediate, blindingly obvious problem is a catastrophic Malthusian dilemma, just amplified like crazy. As you know, Malthus theorized population growth outstripping resources. Now imagine births continuing, maybe even slowing a bit, but deaths from aging stopping. Our planet would become unlivable very, very quickly. It's an exponential growth problem with no natural break.
Oh, I can see that snowball effect immediately. More people every year, but nobody naturally leaving. The numbers just don't work.
Exactly. This unchecked population boom would rapidly lead to a severe lack of, everything. Jobs, first off. Not just for new people, but for everyone who never retires. Then basic resources. Food, clean water, breathable air in cities, and just physical space. Not enough room for everyone to exist comfortably or even safely. One demographic analysis we read, it suggested that within just a few centuries, even with amazing tech advances, the sheer biomass of humanity would overwhelm the planet. This isn't just an inconvenience, it's a foundational existential crisis for all societal structures.
And the consequence of that kind of crisis, I imagine it wouldn't just be messy, it sounds brutal.
Not at all. That kind of deep, pervasive scarcity would almost inevitably force new societal structures. Much more rigid, authoritarian, maybe cruelly enforced systems than anything we've seen. We're talking about a world where access to basics, let alone opportunities, would be fiercely controlled, rationed, probably limited to a tiny elite. The sources we looked at chillingly suggest this would make our current wealth gap, which is already stark, look quaint. Negligible almost. The disparities would be astronomical, existential, not just economic.
So it becomes pretty clear immortality couldn't be a universal right, could it? No way it could be distributed equally.
Highly improbable, maybe impossible under those conditions. Think about it. If the tech is super advanced, complex, incredibly expensive to develop and maintain, it's almost certain only the ultra-rich, the most powerful, maybe those with critical skills, would get access. And that, by definition, creates a two-tiered world, doesn't it? A privileged immortal class living alongside a huge mortal underclass, still playing by the old rules of life and death, the implications for social justice, for human dignity. They're staggering.
And that sounds like a recipe for absolute disaster. That level of inequality one group gets forever, the rest get a ticking clock. It would breed this undercurrent of absolute loathing, intense enough to burn the whole society down, as one analyst put it. It's just, wow, it's not just about money, it's about existence itself, an unbridgeable gap. How could society even function? What could possibly maintain order?
That's a crucial point. That fundamental chasm would likely shatter any social cohesion, spark continuous, maybe violent unrest. And what's fascinating here is this isn't some new worry cooked up because of modern tech. Jonathan Swift, in Gulliver's Travels back in the 18th century, he nailed these fears. He offers this chilling, centuries-old case study about these exact societal fears and unintended consequences.
Swift was really ahead of his time, wasn't he? Thinking about this stuff long before it seemed scientifically plausible.
Absolutely. In one part of the book, he introduces the Struldbrugs. They're immortal, but there's a catch: they keep aging. They don't die, but they decay. Physically, mentally, you might expect them to become wise old sages, right? That's the romantic idea. But Swift's depiction is brutally different. He calls them wrenching, grasping, clutching, covetous old sinners.
Yeah.
Burdened by their endless decaying lives, they embody the worst of human nature, just amplified by time.
Yeah, much darker than the wise elder image we usually associate with long life. Challenges a core assumption there.
It does, and society's response is just as telling. To stop these aging, selfish immortals from basically taking over everything, becoming proprietors of the whole nation, they're legally declared dead at age 80. It's a measure to protect society from their greed, their inertia, their corrosive influence. Swift's dark vision suggests immortality doesn't perfect us. It magnifies our flaws, our vices, leads to these unintended consequences of our worst impulses just stretched out forever. And this raises a really important question for us today. If we develop this tech, does it just amplify who we already are, good and bad? Or does it fundamentally change us? And if so, how? At what cost? It really forces us to look at ourselves, stripped of that deadline of finitude.
That's a truly unsettling thought, immortality. Amplifying our flaws, or even creating new ones. But let's push this even further. Let's say somehow we could solve all those massive logistical problems, population, resources, inequality. What about the personal cost, the internal burden? What would living forever actually do to us, inside our heads, our hearts, our souls? It seems to me, and the sources really hit this hard, that the psychological, the existential cost, that might be the heaviest burden of all.
That's a really profound point, and it's something philosophers have grappled with for centuries, long before science made this seem, even remotely possible. Many thinkers argue that death isn't just this unfortunate end, it's actually what gives life its meaning, or at least a huge, irreplaceable part of it. Which, like you said, feels counterintuitive at first because our instinct is always to avoid death.
So the very thing we fear, the thing we try to escape finitude, it's also essential to our experience of life's value. That's quite the paradox.
Exactly. It's central to existential philosophy. Think of Heidegger, the German philosopher. He talked about being to death, sein zum Tode. His argument, kind of complex but powerful, was that authentic human existence, living fully, making meaningful choices, gets its significance because it's heading towards a finite end, our own death. That constant awareness, even subconscious, that time is limited, that moments don't repeat. That's what pushes us to choose, prioritize, act, love, create, to live authentically, take away that deadline, that ticking clock. What happens to our urgency, to live fully, to create, to connect? Would every moment just become one in an infinite blurry line, losing its individual punch? One perspective we read suggested life without death becomes just endless procrastination. Nothing needs doing today.
It sounds almost perverse, doesn't it? But could endless life, this supposed paradise, actually become boring? Not just a bit dull, but profoundly, existentially boring, unbearably so.
That's precisely the argument from philosopher Bernard Williams. His essay, The Macropulos Case, tackles the tedium of immortality. He argued that a life without death would eventually become utterly pointless, unbearable. Why? Because human desires, projects, they're fundamentally finite. Once you achieve them or just experience them over and over and over, they lose their appeal. Tedium, repetition, stretched out infinitely, it would make everything lose its shine. Crushing weight. He argued that the value of a project and achievement relies on it having an endpoint, a culmination.
I can totally see that. It links back to scarcity defining value, right? That amazing sunset, the joy of a great meal, the thrill of finishing a project on time. All those things arguably lose their punch, their preciousness, if you could experience them infinitely, without end, without that finite context. The word precious kind of implies scarcity, doesn't it? If everything's infinite, is anything truly precious anymore?
Yeah, the erosion of meaning through repetition. It's a powerful argument. And it goes beyond just tedium. It hits the structure of our minds, too. Our minds, weirdly, aren't built for forever either. Psychologists, neuroscientists, and some of the more speculative research think our brains would literally start forgetting, not just small details, but fundamental parts of ourselves. Imagine living just a few hundred years, let alone millennia. After a few centuries, you might only have fragments of who you used to be. Key memories, early life, first loves, formative experiences, your identity fading into this huge, unmanageable sea of time. Your sense of self, your personal story could just dilute, get lost in the sheer volume of infinite experience.
That's terrifying. Losing yourself piece by piece just by living too long, like a slow-motion identity crisis. And that's not even touching the emotional trauma.
You've hit maybe the most devastating part, the constant, unavoidable, endlessly repeating trauma of watching everyone you love age, decay, and die. Over and over. For eternity, friends you make, they'll die. Romantic partners, they'll age and pass. Children, family, same cycle. An endless parade of loss. The immortal becomes this perpetual witness to goodbyes, a solitary survivor. One paper called the immortal a ghost haunting the parade of generations.
The impact of that constant, unimaginable loss, it feels like it would fundamentally break a person.
Yeah.
Extinguish their ability to connect, maybe even to feel joy.
It absolutely could. The sources suggest this relentless trauma might lead to profound apathy, emotional detachment. As a defense mechanism, maybe you just stop forming deep relationships to avoid the inevitable pain of loss. You might start experiencing the world in this detached, blasé way, observing, not participating. Because caring hurts too much, too often. And this leads to the deepest question, doesn't it? Striking at our very essence. If we live so long we become apathetic, disconnected, forgetful, our sense of self diluted, would we still be human in any meaningful way? Would we even recognize ourselves, or what we currently call humanity? It's a chilling thought that immortality might strip away the very things that make us us.
So, after exploring all this, the incredible possibilities, yes, but then these stark warnings, societal collapse, this crushing psychological weight, we're left with a really powerful paradox, aren't we? What if our mortality, this thing we instinctively fight against, isn't a weakness? What if it's actually, in some profound way, our greatest strength?
What's truly fascinating is how that perspective flips everything, turns a perceived limitation into the very source of meaning. It suggests the brevity of our time, knowing it's finite, is exactly what creates urgency. What makes every interaction, every choice, every moment matter so intensely. Knowing that time is limited makes that hug, that conversation, that decision count. In a way, an endless timeline might just wash away. Without that endpoint looming, the intensity of now might just dissipate.
So it's not about living longer, is it? It's about living better, more intensely, more authentically in the time we actually have, a shift from quantity to quality.
Exactly. Think about virtues like bravery, courage, nobility, even self-sacrifice. They're often rooted in knowing there's risk, there's consequence, there's finality. Would an immortal truly be brave if there was no ultimate risk? Would nobility mean the same if life was guaranteed forever? Finitude adds weight, consequence to our choices, our ethics. It drives us towards a more passionate, purposeful life. Death, in this view, isn't just an end. It's the ultimate incentive to act now. Live passionately, pursue goals, forgive, love fiercely, find meaning in this precious, limited time. It's a constant nudge to engage fully.
That makes perfect sense. If you knew, truly knew, you had forever. Procrastination wouldn't just be a bad habit, it'd be the ultimate way of life, wouldn't it? Why do anything today? Why push yourself? Why grab an opportunity if there are literally infinite tomorrows? It could be the death of ambition, the ultimate excuse.
Precisely. And this insight we found from an ethicist captures it beautifully. The greatest meaning comes not from endless duration, but from the investments we make in the things we value, and that has nothing to do with whether we die or not. End. That powerfully suggests meaning comes from how we live, the quality of relationships, experiences, impact, values we embody, not just how long. Connecting this to the big picture, it suggests striving for biological immortality might be missing the point entirely. That the real richness lies in embracing and investing fully in our finite, precious present. It challenges that core assumption that more life automatically equals better life. Maybe the greatest gift isn't endless time, but the preciousness of limited time. #tag outro.
Wow. What an incredible, really mind-bending journey we've been on today. Delving deep into life, meaning time itself. So what do you think after all this, after this exploration? If you had the absolute choice, live forever, with all the potential promises and all the chilling consequences we've talked about, would you take it? Or would you maybe choose to cherish the beauty, the urgency of a finite but meaningful life, knowing every moment counts because it won't last forever? It's a truly profound question, isn't it? No easy answer. Makes you really look inward at your own values.
And that introspection is key. It raises an important question for all of us right here, right now, whether immortality happens or not. How are we investing in what we truly value today? Knowing our time, however long, is precious and finite. It brings those huge abstract questions right back to our immediate lives.
A perfect thought-provoking challenge to end on. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep exploration today, here on Future Mind. We challenged reality, explored ideas shaping tomorrow. We've truly loved having you with us, sharing these incredible, sometimes unsettling insights. And remember this thought from our sources. Forever is only powerful if today means something. Until our next insightful conversation, keep questioning, keep exploring, and cherish those precious moments. Take care, everyone, and we'll see you next time.